My name is Jeff Taft with FibroCentriX. Welcome to each and every one. What I basically am here to do tonight is something we really have a fantastic opportunity. The president and CEO, who's partnered with the founders of FibroCentriX, is here tonight to share a little bit, as many of you know, about the organization and the disease itself, the condition. So I'm really glad to have you, and I know we're all thrilled to have P. William Clark here to share some of his insights and what he knows about the organization and some of the treatment protocols that FibroCentriX is supporting. So please welcome P. William Clark.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. You're welcome. Hey, everybody. How are we doing? Everybody here made it okay? It's a nice Thursday evening, right? It is Thursday evening. I always say that, I preface that because a number of years ago, Michael Wilson, who was at the time the president of the American Heart Association, invited me to speak at their conference, and it was a 3-day event. I got up in front of everybody and misspoke and said the wrong day, so I was corrected by the entire audience. And as you can imagine, that room was just a little bit bigger than this room, but we had a nice laugh, so it was a lot of fun. And it's interesting to bring that particular meeting up. There was a number of speakers at the panel, and I got to know all of them over the course of a couple of days. And one of the speakers who was speaking on a particular topic, I kind of got close with, and so I was, some of his insights and talking in the hotel at night, I was looking very forward to seeing his presentation. And so as he got up, he actually started the presentation, and I can probably reenact it better than I can tell you the story. He actually had a pitcher of water, and we'll pretend this is a pitcher of water. He took a cup, and he poured some water. Then out of his pocket, believe it or not, he pulled a nightcrawler, just an ordinary earthworm. That's what I said. And he dropped it in the water. And he said, "Don't take your eyes off the glass." And for about 2 minutes, everybody stared at the glass until he put the glass down on the table. In another minute or so, the worm did what any worm would do, is came up out of the glass and down onto the table and put it back in his pocket. Then he said, "If you think that was impressive, watch this." He went over, he got another glass, and out of his other pocket took a little flask. And he explained to everyone that he was now filling the glass with pure alcohol. Back into the pocket, out with the worm. Don't take your eyes off the glass. For the first minute, same worm, same stupid trick, nothing's happening. But about minute 2, everything started to change. At about minute 2, the glass began to get a little bit cloudy. Then a little murky. And then in about 3 minutes, it looked like mud. Figuring he had demonstrated what he came to demonstrate, he held the glass up and said to everybody, "Well, what does this mean?" And everyone looked around until some joker in the back piped up and said, "Well, it means if you drink, you won't get worms." And so that was his little story. Now, I shared that with you. I shared that story with you because it's kind of cute. But really, I shared that with you for a particular reason. The reason he utilized that story back then was because some of the concepts, some of the thoughts, and some of the things that he was going to be sharing were very unorthodox and very, very new. And as you can imagine, speaking in front of a bunch of executives from all over the nation for the American Heart Association, these people were pretty well educated and scrutinizing everything that all of us were talking about. And one of the points that he wanted to make is he wanted to make a point with that worm. And so I'd like to do that today. And his point was that no matter what we discuss, no matter what he's going to discuss, no matter what I'm going to discuss today, there's always a tendency to have wormholes through the middle of the apple. And so his agreement that he got with the crowd is, let's look at what we're talking about today with an open mind and not try to poke wormholes in it. And so I hope that we can do that today. Now, there's a second reason that we'll talk about in a little bit about how that worm may kind of come to play. So let me share with you a little bit about what we're going to do today. I'm going to share a little bit with you about me. I'm going to talk with you a little bit about FibroCentriX, what we do. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the symptoms and conditions and challenges, and I may even ask some of you some questions related to some of the treatments or advice or some of the things you've learned about the conditions that you have. Then we're going to jump into The little bit of a background behind this newly patented solution that I think some of you probably have read about, what it is, how it works, how it's affecting people, where it came from. We'll be talking about the gentleman who invented it, who I spent about 3 hours on the phone with again today. We talk quite often, so that's not uncommon. And we'll talk about how it may, for some of you, be a life-changing day today. And I hope it's for all of you. I will make a disclaimer up front that although the solution works very, very quickly, very, very well, it works for the majority of the people that we see. It doesn't work for everyone. There's about a 10%, or it's actually less, I say 10%. It's probably 5% actually that don't respond and it will not work. And we'll talk about some of those parameters for you. So let's jump into this. The question I guess I have for you guys, how many people in the room have a named condition or has been diagnosed with chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia? Any of those? Which one's chronic fatigue? Fibromyalgia? Any others that maybe you might want to discuss today? Anybody in the room, Hashimoto's? None? Okay, all right. And I asked that because there are a number of conditions that this solution has a profound impact on. The symptoms associated with fibromyalgia are the most profound that we've ever seen. It's almost miraculous. And by the end of today, I'll invite a participant from this room to actually go through the testing procedure. In about 7 to 10 minutes, we'll identify whether or not the solution will work for you right in this room. So, and of course, as we go through, you'll understand what it is and how it works. So how did this come about? And you know, how did we get to where we are? We got to where we are because a number of years ago, a gentleman by the name of Jeff Commoner, Dr. Commoner, began seeing patients over and over with fibromyalgia. His backstory is long. He just celebrated his 73rd birthday 4 weeks ago. And so I won't get his whole background, but he went to medical school, actually ended up teaching at medical school, was in practice, and then fell in love with something called applied kinesiology. I don't know, does anybody know what that means? AK, applied kinesiology. Well, these guys are specialty doctors who really, for all intents and purposes, see all of the cases that nobody can figure out what's going on with people. They spend an awful lot of time. Their appointments aren't 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Sometimes their appointments are 3 hours. And they get to the bottom of things that nobody can, and I won't get into that discipline. But as a result, he was practicing just outside of Atlanta in a small town. And the doctors within that various area would continually send people with things that they just couldn't identify, things they couldn't fix. And many of those people ended up being people with fibromyalgia. And it pained him, if you knew him, it pains him that he can't fix somebody, that he can't help somebody. So he set out on a mission to really unravel the mystery of what's going on with these fibro conditions. Who's had a lot of advice from various doctors? A lot of folks. I have the pleasure of seeing hundreds of patients with these conditions, and I always ask them, tell me about some of the things that you've been told. Tell me about some of the things doctors have shared with you. And one of the things that I see, it's almost unanimous with everyone, is there's very a wide degree of information. A lot of it is even opposing and or conflicting. And so it's hard to understand where the middle is. What is it? How did it come from? So today when you leave, you'll have a better understanding of what's actually going on in your body. So I'll have that. But give me just a quick couple of things. What is fibro? Does anybody want to just give me a little answer? What you've been told? Anybody?
It affects all your soft tissues. It affects your soft tissues.
Okay, affects your soft tissues. What else?
The nervous system.
Nervous system, yeah. What else?
It makes you your pain a higher level than somebody else that, like, for example, an IV might be very painful for someone with fibromyalgia compared to.
A lot more pain sensitivity, sure. A lot more pain sensitivity. Yep. What else? Anybody? All right. So how did you catch it? How did you catch fibro? Where did it come from?
some say from being in chronic pain for years, which
Okay,
I
so-
think was my case.
Okay, some say from being in chronic pain for years. Anybody else? What have you been told?
I've heard of trauma.
Trauma? Yeah, sure.
Viruses.
Viruses, sure.
Surgeries.
Okay, surgeries. So by and large, the general understanding has been and is that fibromyalgia begins and is onset by some type of a stressful or traumatic experience. So when you think of what those could be or might be, automobile accidents, loss of a spouse, child, parent, abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, anything that you can think of that has a tremendous impact on our body and our nervous system and our response systems. So who's heard the term autonomic nervous system? Who's heard that term? Anybody?
Dr. House.
Okay. Tell me what you know about the autonomic nervous system. Anything at all?
No, I just watched the program.
Okay, you watch House on TV. Great program. Great program. Okay, so the autonomic nervous system is part of the central nervous system. All these systems are connected, and it really has two branches, meaning that it has a sympathetic and a parasympathetic side. Now, I won't use those terms over and over again. You might better know what I'm talking about if I were to say to you, fight or flight response. Does anybody know what that means? Fight or flight response. All right, I'll explain. Within our bodies, all animals, in different types of animals have different responses, and I'll explain a couple of those to you. But for human beings, for example, in many animals like us, when we're faced with something that either scares us, what's the first thing that happens if we're scared? We tense up, okay? So what's the first thing that happens if we're driving our car and minding our own business and a police car comes up behind us with the lights on? What happens? We move into this fight or flight response. We are preparing ourselves for something. Our nervous system takes over. What happens immediately? Our heart rate increases. You're just driving peaceably, all of a sudden, what happens? Total change. You didn't have control over that change. It just happened. Okay, so that's just one example of how that works. Now, to use a silly example, just because I like to have fun. If I'm going to be here and we're all going to be together, we might as well have a little bit of fun, right? So let's just suppose for a moment, and Lisa's going to crack up at me, that a saber-toothed tiger jumped out at us way back when, okay? You get all tensed up, and you have to make a split decision now whether you fight that saber-toothed tiger or you retreat, flight, and try to get to your cave. Now, as soon as that happens, your body kicks into this fight or flight response. At that time, things are happening chemically within your body. All kinds of chemicals, without using the fancy names, are being distributed to portions of your body. They're being distributed to your muscles to make your muscles what? Stronger, right? Being distributed to your optics area to do what? To dilate your pupils. Why? To allow more light in so your vision is more acute. There are things going on to make your synapses and your thinking process quicker and more acute. Has anybody, can I ask, been in a car accident? Anybody ever roll a car over? Well, if you've been in a car accident where you've spun around or it's been, a turnover, most people can recall that when that occurred, they can recount that almost as a slow motion video in their mind. Do you have that experience with anything, anybody? Kind of that experience? And think about this. The reason why is, once your body moves into this fight or flight response, all of the things that were going on within your body are no longer important. All the focal point on every system within your body is focused on survival of that event. So that way the synapses is very acutely sensing every motion, every feel of the movement of that automobile as it is spinning in the snow. And I think we've all kind of done that before. Being here in upstate New York, a little bit of snow, yes. Okay. So you have that experience.